Hi everybody. So I just want to give you a really quick background on where testing came from. So testing. The idea behind testing when it was originally proposed as part of No Child Left Behind was that having a standardized test across all schools and all states would enable us to identify students that need help and schools that need resources. So the idea was institute a test, and then from that, you'd be able to tell which students are falling behind so that you could give them after-school tutoring, mentoring, smaller classes, individualized attention. And you would know which schools were starting to fall behind. So which schools had uniformly problematic test scores so that you could figure out what the resources were that they needed. Now, that was the origination of the testing. Sounds really good, right? I mean, it sounds like a good way to identify problems and propose solutions. So that was what testing came from. Testing came from that idea of being able to help students and help schools. Now, that's not how testing is used today, obviously. Today, testing is used in a way that punishes students and schools. So today, students are held accountable for tests, and in that they are translating these state standardized tests and national standardized tests into graduation requirements, into requirements for passing on from like one grade to another, for placement in classes. And this punishes students, right? For if a teacher doesn't teach towards the test, if a teacher has to deal with other things, or if a teacher is bad, it punishes the students. The other thing that they're using the testing for is to punish schools. So instead of using test results as a way to identify which schools need more help, instead they're using it as a stick. So they're saying, okay, you get low test scores, then we're going to take money away. We're going to punish your school. Now, this is the exact opposite of the way the testing was intended to work. Right? So if a school is doing poorly, it's generally because the school doesn't have enough resources. But instead, we're saying if you don't do well, we're going to take away resources, and we're going to give those resources to schools that are testing well, which is the exact opposite of the way that the testing was envisioned to work. So now we have a system in which we have a lot of testing. Students in our schools spend days upon days actually doing testing. And then we have numerous other days dedicated just to test preparation, to test for sample tests, for getting to know the computer system that the tests will be run on. And then students also lose a lot of teacher days because the teachers are out learning about the new tests. And so they're taught by substitutes instead, which is not a generally good approach to education. So now we have this system where we introduced a policy, testing in schools, to do one thing, and instead we're doing something else with it. So instead we're punishing students and we're punishing schools as the result of tests that aren't very effectively measuring student outcomes. So that's basically what I want you to know about the background of testing for today, is there is this major disconnect. And then I'm going to give you a Providence Student Union video to watch. Let me give you a little background here. 2 years ago, the Rhode Island State House the state legislature instituted a graduation exam. So they said, okay, starting next year, everybody who is going to get a Rhode Island high school diploma has to pass this graduation exam. And it applied immediately. So there may be students in this class who had to take that exam and then failed. So what happened was they passed this exam, which nobody had been teaching to, and said you have to pass this now or you can't graduate from high school. And a lot of students failed, and overwhelmingly students in the northern part of the state. So minority students in particular failed this exam in record numbers. And so you had a situation where it was something like 50 to 80% of Providence school students who were supposed to graduate were not going to graduate because of this exam. And so you had massive protests on the part of students, on the part of teachers. You had URI professors taking the exam publicly to show that they could not pass it. that they're professors with PhDs and they couldn't pass the exam. And it was sued in court. It was taken up in court. And the court said you can't do this. You can't institute a test out of nowhere on students that were supposed to graduate when the schools have not had time to prepare. But so they took away the exam. So all of the students who were supposed to not get their degrees because of this exam ended up getting their degrees. However, that does not mean Rhode Island has decided not to institute an exam. Now they're just reworking the exam and figuring out what type of timeline to give the students so that the court won't overturn it. So that's where we're at, and I'm going to give you a couple videos to watch of the protests that happened and the debate that happened over that exam to feed into your discussion. Hope you have a good day.